Well, it was announced recently that President Trump would be doing a review of the Smithsonian's museum exhibits to make sure that they, quote, celebrate American exceptionalism, remove divisive or partisan narratives, and restore confidence in our shared cultural institutions. Which, yes, that is what our publicly funded museum exhibits should do. So that's very good. And they talked about this on CNN last night.
Our museums can't have anything that is even mildly critical of American history, I guess.
And you can only imagine what their take was.
That's what fascists do, by the way. So they rewrite history.
Jillian Michaels was a guest, and but she's the one person on the panel who did not see this move by Trump to be some great horrific act. And so here's how that conversation went. Listen.
Have you looked at some of the things that are being reviewed?
Yeah, slavery was a bad thing that was to talk about.
Okay.
Like,
he's not whitewashing slavery. So
he's not?
He's not. No,
okay.
He's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you look at slavery.
What? I mean, I don't know if she knows this, but this is America. And these museums display American history. And if she knows anything about the history of this country, yes, the race that owned black people was white. That's just a fact. And yes, it was a small percentage, but let's not pretend that only that 2% benefited from slavery. I mean, it was the basis of the entire Southern economy. And not only that, the banks and textile manufacturers in the North also benefited extremely from slavery. So, I mean, this is just complete nonsense.
Let's talk about the facts.
I mean, slavery in America was...
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
But it was a system of white supremacy.
Do you realize that slavery is thousands of years old?
White people were
Do you know
the slave
who
owners.
was the first race to try to end slavery?
Wait a second.
This is wild. And Matt Walsh agrees with all of what she's saying. Yes, slavery pre-existed, the founding of the United States. Good for you? Like, of course, everybody knows that. You think this is a gotcha? Guys, to understand how stupid this argument is, let's say that you murder someone and you're being tried, okay? You're in court and your defense is like, look, murder has been going on for thousands of years. Murder happens every day. All right, so don't worry about me. Go out and try to, convict everyone else, but not me. Like, that's how brain dead she is. Yes, slavery has existed in the past. It exists today, but we're in America and we're allowed to criticize our own history. Like, what?
Well, what's controversial?
I'm very surprised.
This is an extraordinary exercise in historical revisionism.
I'm really surprised.
Do you realize that?
Jillian, I'm surprised that you're trying to litigate who was the beneficiary of slavery and who was not.
What I'm trying to tell you is that
in the context of American history, in the context of...
She was trying to say that only 2% of white people in the South benefited from slavery. Otherwise, she wouldn't bring up that percentage.
American history. What are you saying is incorrect by saying that it was white people oppressing black people?
Every single thing is like, oh, no, this is all because white people bad. And that's just not the truth. Like, for example, every single exhibit, I have a list of every single one. Like, people migrated from Cuba because white people bad. Not because of Castro. Yes, no, it's in there. That's what I'm saying. You don't act...
I mean, that's how she's characterizing it. Okay, so Jillian Michaels, world-renowned smart person, is saying that this Cuba exhibit just said white people bad, or that's the gist of it. I mean, of course that's not true. The exhibit says that the United States backed numerous dictators, which is true, including Cuba's Fulgencio Batista and the Dominican Republic's Rafael Trujillo. Cuban, Dominican, and many other Latino communities still feel the effects of war and revolution. Their stories reveal the human cost of immigration and the contradictions of U.S. foreign policy. Is whiteness mentioned at all in that? No. And it's all completely true. The U.S. backs dictators all over the world, but especially in Latin America, right? Because it's our backyard. We can do whatever the hell we want there. As long as it protects capital and it crushes any form of communism, right?
Actually know what's in there. Do you know that when you walk in the front door, the first thing you see is the gay...
All right, so Jillian
Oh no, the gay flag. I'm so offended. I'm so fragile. I'm such a little snowflake bitch, and I have to complain about acknowledging the fact that gay people exist. Oh, the horror.
All right, so Jillian is completely correct, of course. The other people on the panel are looking at her dumbfounded. And that's not a put on, by the way. They're not feigning ignorant.
That's because everything she said was incredibly dumb. Like you, Matt Walsh.
They really just have never heard anything that she's saying. The things that she's saying, they've never, when they're looking at her stupefied.
Yes, like the fact that slavery has always existed. Nobody knew that until she came on CNN to inform the American public, I guess.
Right? They can't process it. Well, that's because they've actually never heard it before. The level of sheer overwhelming historical ignorance of most quote educated Americans these days just cannot be understated. And that's not to let them off the hook or to excuse it. But the fact is that if you went to public school any time over the past 40 years, your education was effectively worthless. Your American history education was especially worthless. And that's why you never even heard some of the most basic facts of the world's, you've never heard a lot. There's a lot of basic facts you never heard. And you certainly didn't hear some of the most basic facts about one of the world's longest running and most prevalent institutions, which is slavery.
He is straight up whitewashing slavery. Oh, everyone has done it, so we can't talk about, our version of it. Which was particularly brutal. It wasn't like the only form of brutal slavery, right? But it was a brutal form of slavery. Chattel slavery, in terms of its sheer scale, was unique in history. Yeah, absolutely. And yes, it may not have started out as a racialized institution, but it certainly became that over time. You can't deny that. You cannot deny that, right? All of the, defenders of slavery throughout history have said that black people were inferior and couldn't handle freedom. To pretend it wasn't racially based at some point is just being ignorant of history, which, it's not surprising. It's Matt Walsh. He has the IQ of a piece of buttered toast.
Statement. It's a statement about human nature. It's a troubling statement about human nature. We have a fallen nature as human beings. We know that as Christians. So it shouldn't be a great shock. But either way, one of the things that humans across the world had in common with each other for thousands of years is that they all had figured out that it's a lot easier to get stuff done if you force someone else to do it. So it's like you have these two cultures and they're trying to communicate, trying to relate, not understanding each other. And then they see each other's slaves and they go, oh, you have those too? Oh, that's so neat. We're twins, slave twins.
What the fuck? What is he saying? What is the point of this? He's going on for hours about how, cultures around the world had slavery. Like, it just seems like he's trying to fill time here, right? And this is just a 14-minute video, and he's going on and on and on. Yes, we get it. You're embarrassing yourself.
That's actually a direct quote, by the way. That's from one of Vasco da Gama's expeditions, I believe. Anyway, so this was Universal, okay? And yet, Universal, now there were there were a lot of differences in how these institutions how they operated. And there were a lot of differences in how long these various different cultures had slavery. But the universal is that everybody throughout the world for a long period of time had slavery, and it was and they got the slaves different ways. Maybe they had the slaves, but slavery is okay. You have to work. You have to perform some sort of labor for you, and we're not going to pay you, and you don't have a choice. Like that's slavery, and it was everywhere. It was everywhere. Every single place on the globe where there were people had this, and yet somehow this fact has escaped most of the educated people in our country today.
It hasn't, though. How do you know that they didn't know that? They weren't surprised to learn that, slavery has existed for a long time around the world. They were surprised that Jillian Michaels was pushing back on museums having exhibits about slavery in this country. That's what they were surprised about. Not because she was talking about the fact that slavery has existed for a long time. Like, my 6-year-old nephew knows that. Okay, everybody knows that, right? Babies know that out of the womb, okay? Except Matt Walsh. I'm sure he learned that when he was like 40. Because he's what, like 60 now? Who clearly dyes his beard and his hair.
This really, I think, fascinating fact. There's so much to be learned from that. Right? There's so much we can learn about human nature.
He's so excited to know that slavery has been around for a long time. It's weird how excited he gets about that.
Important things that we should learn about human nature, we could learn if we would just face this fact.
Like what, though? Tell us, Matt. What are we learning about ourselves? It's funny, he never gets into any of that. He's like, oh, it's so important to know that slavery has always existed all around the world because it gives us so much knowledge about human nature. But I'm not going to talk about any of that.
And yet we don't, because we have a lot of people today who don't even, they truly don't know. You have grown adults that went to universities and
get it out, Matt,
and everything else, and they don't even know this. And that's, again, it's not to let them off the hook. Yes, their education failed them, their schools failed them, but so did mine. I went to public school, and then I dropped out of community college, and that's the extent of my formal education. Yet I know these basic things about world history. You probably know them as well.
I do, thanks.
So we know them. And yet you have people that have a decade of formal higher education under their belt, and they've got degrees and masters and everything else, and they don't even know this basic stuff. And that's because
they absolutely do.
If you know this stuff, and if I know it, it's because we are curious about things, and like to keep learning. And these people, the kinds of people on that CNN panel, are totally incurious. Just absolutely empty-headed, incurious, jello-brained ignoramuses who really just don't know anything. They
Oh, the pot calling the kettle black, man. This guy's ridiculous, dude. He doesn't even know about like basic facts about Haiti and the fact that the U.S. has repeatedly intervened and overthrown governments because they weren't sufficiently capitalist enough, so we could continue exploiting the country and installing right-wing dictatorships that have caused, untold amounts of havoc, which explains why there was an influx of Haitian immigrants. But he didn't know any of that, even just like on a surface level. The U.S. destabilizes other countries, and that's why they come here? I had no idea. That's Matt Walsh. He didn't even know that basic fact. Like, he never thought, oh, why are so many Haitians coming to this country? Why are so many immigrants from third world countries, especially in Latin America, coming to the United States? He's never had that thought. He just thinks immigrants bad. They come here because they want to destroy this country or something, even though they're just looking for work and safer environments.
Really don't know anything at all. Their base of knowledge is as deep as a thimble. They don't know anything at all. And now that they've been told the truth, they certainly won't follow up. Not going to follow up on it. No, they'll climb back into their intellectual shells because these truths about slavery are very startling, very scary to them.
These truths. Again, what are the truths, plural, that slavery has existed in all of human history? In all cultures. And I mean, it's not even true in all cultures, but like most cultures, right? I mean, it didn't exist in hunter-gatherer cultures, but whatever, right? As soon as we developed agriculture, slavery has existed. I'm sure he doesn't even know that.
They threatened to dismantle the entire artifice of white guilt, the whole narrative. I mean, the whole narrative of white guilt depends on the idea that white people are uniquely guilty for things like slavery.
No, dude, not like the institution of slavery itself, but the specific iteration of it in this country. Yeah, white people did that. I'm sorry, that's just reality. Like you have to get over it. Stop being a snowflake little bitch and get over it, dude. I mean, I don't entirely agree with the concept of white guilt, but let's not like bury our heads in the sand and pretend that white people and white supremacy was not a driving factor for the institution of slavery in this country. Like, just get over it, dude.
It completely depends on that. And if that is not the case, then the whole thing breaks down. So they run away screaming. They don't want to hear anymore. They certainly don't want to hear that, every predominantly white nation on earth had abolished slavery by the mid-1800s.
And I'm sure, again, because Matt Walsh doesn't know anything, he definitely doesn't know that a country that abolished slavery before all of the Western European ones and the United States was Haiti. And yes, his point is that, the Arabs and Africans continued to engage in slavery, so it's not our fault anymore, I guess.
Slavery persisted. Legal institutional slavery persisted in Arabic and African countries for another century, sometimes much longer. Slavery was not fully criminalized across the African continent. Okay, get this. Slavery was not fully criminalized across the African continent until 2007.
And that was in one country, and I forget the name. It was it starts with an M. But yes, it wasn't fully criminalized until 2007. So what? I mean, what's the point? What's the point? That we don't reckon with our own history? I'm confused.
2007. They were on season 6 of American Idol when Africa finally got around to fully criminalizing slavery.
Not the whole continent, one country in the whole continent. Still bad, but he's not characterizing it correctly.
That's how recent it was, okay? And it's the same in the Middle East. And that's why I've said so many times, the only thing unique.
Look, are we really going to compare ourselves to the Middle East? Doesn't Matt Walsh hold the United States to a higher standard? Why are we comparing ourselves to the third world?
The only thing unique about the relationship between white Western society and slavery, the only thing unique about it is that those societies practiced it for a much, much, much shorter period of time, and also a much less brutal form of it. Because the other thing that you're going to hear about slavery, chattel slavery in the United States was so much more brutal than what they did in other parts of the world. You have no clue what you're talking about. First of all, it's like as if chattel, there's something distinct. Oh, well, this was chattel as opposed to what? What do you think they were doing? What do you think the Arabic slave traders were doing?
This is insane, right? Because other cultures practice a brutal form of slavery that absolves us of any wrongdoing, I guess. I mean, I get his point is that, we're not unique. Who is saying that we're completely unique? Yes, other human beings can be evil and inflict misery on others. I don't understand his point. We can't talk about the specific form it took in the United States, which did include white supremacy. This is just so fucking stupid. Let's just remind everyone how brutal it was in the United States, okay? Slaves experienced beatings, whippings, brandings, and other forms of torture. Not only that, but enslaved women, in particular, were subjected to widespread sexual exploitation, including forced pregnancies and sexual abuse by slaveholders and their families and overseers. Enslaved men also experienced sexual violence, including in cases of sodomy, and suffered the emotional pain of being unable to protect their loved ones from such attacks. There was family separation, psychological and emotional trauma, and of course the denial of basic rights and education. But it's not that bad because other cultures also inflicted brutal forms of slavery, I guess.
But you think that was a nice and gentle? You think when they captured slaves and dragged them across the Saharan desert, it was nice and friendly? No, the Arabic slavers were, again, if you have even the smallest bit of knowledge about this, you know that slavery.
Yes, Matt, but we don't live in the Middle East. We live in America. And when we have museums dedicated to American history, we're going to talk about American history. Now, if you want to add a little caveat that says, oh, slavery existed everywhere, and there are also brutal forms in other parts of the world, okay, I guess. But what are we supposed to do? Just take down those exhibits entirely? Like, what's the point of this?
In Africa, slavery in Arabic countries was often much more brutal, much more. Things like, just routinely, as a matter of course, castrating male slaves. This was a routine. This was the custom. This is what they did. It wasn't like there were a few horrific cases of it. This is just what they did.
I mean, if he was being honest and actually cared about this stuff, he would be saying, look, museums in Arab countries, African countries, need to have exhibits that detail the horrific institution of slavery in those countries in which castration occurred. Because, yeah, he's right. That's terrible. It's disgusting. But it's all this, like, whataboutism. Oh, what about these guys? Let's downplay our crimes and emphasize their crimes, because that's just what we do in the United States.
And that's only the beginning of it. So this was absolutely brutal. And on top of that, it went on for so much longer. It went on for...
He just seems so tired. Like, he doesn't even... Like, his heart's not really in it. Like, he's like, I just have to crap this video out and defend, the American version of slavery against other forms, because I know my audience will eat it up and they're morons.
For 100 years longer. And the only reason that it even stopped is because they were forced to stop. It's because the European powers abolished slavery, and then eventually they said, you know what, we're not going to let anyone else do it. They're like, we're done with this, guys. We're moving on. We're going to be civilized people now. We're not doing slavery anymore.
He's making it seem like, oh, there was a consensus that in Europe that we all just wanted to stop slavery because we thought we realized how wrong it was. Not realizing, not having the historical knowledge, because Matt's an idiot, that there was a lot of debate on whether or not slavery, the institution of slavery and the slave trade, should end. And a significant part of that debate was the economics of it, not the morality of it. Now, that was part of it, but let's not forget that economics played a big role in whether or not slavery should continue.
And so slavery was abolished. The slave trade, the Atlantic slave trade, it was abolished over the objections of Arabic and African countries who wanted it to continue. And that is just the fact. So, and as much as anyone on the left might want to say, well, that's got nothing to do with that, it's irrelevant. No, it's got everything to do with it. Because your whole narrative is that white Americans are uniquely guilty, but that's your whole narrative.
I mean, if they do say white people are uniquely guilty, okay, I mean, I disagree with that. But we also can't deny the system of white supremacy that perpetuated the institution of slavery and the existence of white supremacy today. The continuance of systemic racism in this country, which you cannot deny.
And it's just not true. And if the history of slavery in Africa, if the history of slavery in the Middle East, if the history of slavery in Asia is irrelevant now because it was a long time ago, even though, in Africa, it's like a long time ago was 2007. But if
in one country, but whatever,
it's irrelevant now because it's a long time ago, then it's also irrelevant, than the form of slavery practiced in the United States, which, by the way, only 1% to 2% of Americans ever own slaves. Like the tiniest little fraction of Americans ever even own slaves.
Again, as I mentioned earlier, it wasn't just 2% of the white population that benefited. This is just baby-brained bullshit. And let's not pretend that the justification for slavery was racially based and that white people who weren't slave owners, who were working class, at least were afforded certain privileges because of their whiteness. So that white and black people would not, band together and rebel against the white slave-owning class.
99% of Americans never had anything to do with it.
Yeah, except, again, all the banking institutions in the North, all the textile manufacturers, they had nothing to do with slavery. They were completely disconnected from it. And this guy is trying to teach us history.
Yet this is our somehow this thing. Slavery was an institution in the United States of America United States of America as a country had slavery for like 90 years.
What? We had slavery in the United States for 90 years. See it right there. He's trying to whitewash slavery again. He's saying that we had slavery in the United States in the sense that from 1776 to 1865, that was 90 years. But slavery existed in the North and South Americas since the 1500s. And not only that, let's not pretend that, when slavery was abolished in this country, that black people were just suddenly rocking it. There were no systemically racist laws that kept black people from becoming full participants in society and fully recognized citizens. Come on, dude. This is so stupid. But look, it's Matt Walsh. He's been bonked on the head probably several times and never got it checked out. But Matt has the audacity to call people stupid and historically ignorant when it's clear in this video that he knows barely anything about history, except that slaves have existed for a long time. Good job, Matt. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. I'm going to go take a nap. Love you guys. Subscribe, okay? Do it. Do it now.